Hi guys, and welcome back to another video. So today I'm working on a festive, cozy type scene. I've been wanting to do one of these for a while now. In fact, I want to do one that was a little bit more cozy and had a few different elements in it, but in the end, this is the one that I ended up getting done before Christmas, before the holidays. But yeah, I love designing pieces that are inspired by something, but not on the nose, not exactly that. So this is my take on something holiday related. I had a lot of fun designing this, and I'll talk more about that in a second, but I do want to give a quick thank you because this video is being supported by Squarespace. And Squarespace is a great place to get your website hosted. I am working on updating my own personal portfolio and all of this great stuff that I'm gonna have on my website. I'm updating it, I'm making it nice and new and pretty, and I can't wait to show you guys. It is under construction right now, but it is a great way to get your website up. And I do actually have a code for you guys. If you'd like 10% off your first order, you can use the code Danica, and there is a link in the description as well. And also they offer a free 2-week trial to try it out, put your own assets in it and see how you like it. But I'll talk more about that at the end. Let's talk a little bit about this piece today. So like I mentioned, I wanted this to feel festive-y and wintry and cozy. And there are a few details that I made sure ended up in this piece. So I wanted to put some holly berries in there because I love that vibrant red. I love plants. I love being able to include those in there. So I tried to put those throughout her hair. I have them tied in and yeah, stuck in her hair. But I also knew that as I was designing it, I had a pretty strong specific element of color that I knew I wanted in this piece. So I wanted her sweater to be red, very red, and everything else would be based around it. And I was pretty sure that I wasn't going to do directly green. I thought about several options. In the end, I did actually end up going with a blue for the background, which you'll see in a second, which I really love that because it's a little bit of a warmer blue, so it has that, but it is very wintry. And that's what I wanted to get out of this piece. I wanted her to feel very warm and rich and bright, and then the background, this sky behind her that's through the window, I wanted it to also be very wintry and cold. And the opposite of that, I find that that's the most cozy for me when I'm inside my room and outside is blustering. Actually, it's really blustering right now if you can hear it. But when it's so cold outside and you feel nice and cozy and warm inside. So I wanted to show that in this piece and find a way to make that come through. Originally, I had plans of having the window panes frosted over, and I didn't end up quite making that happen, but I might try a kind of technique with that in the future with more of an effect on the windows on how it's happening. But I did really like being able to work with this more of an atmospheric look to it. I realize that that's something that I've been missing quite a bit, is creating environments. And even this one, it's very simple of an environment really, but it creates a world beyond her and it feels like she's in a place rather than just a design element. And I loved working that way and painting that way and being able to create the sky that was hazy and cold and gray, but it had this contrast to her. So it is a reminder that I really do want to get more into creating environments and scenes and scenarios and settings and moods with my pieces. So that is one thing that I do think I was at least successful in, the fact that it showed me the right direction to go. But I feel really great about being able to have the contrast of the cold outside and having her with these really warm red tones. And I did end up going back over with a glaze on top of the entire background, which was more of a turquoise. So I wanted to bring a little bit more green and warmth into the blue in the background, simply so that it has just a hint of that complementary color going on, where there's red for her and a little bit of a green in the background. Mostly it's a blue, but I think that those two colors just go really well together. Even just the slightly green blue just really does pop off of the red, or I guess it's more the other way around. The red really pops off of that blue color. And I think I was getting a little rusty with working with wet on dry. I'm not sure what it was, but when I started painting the sweater, my technique was kind of awful. So when you're using watercolor, you want to use the right amount of water on your brush so that it flows from what's already on the page to the dry spot, so that there you have a very seamless wash. it's a technique that you just have to find the right balance of. If you use too much water, then it can flood the paper and it can oversaturate it with water. And so it's finding the right balance. But if you do it too dry, then you get streaks in your paint. But I found that I was going really dry for some reason. I wasn't putting enough water down, and I wasn't letting it flow and spread the way that watercolor wants to do. So I realized that I was kind of fighting with myself, and I wasn't really sure why I was in that weird zone. But I think it's kind of a reminder that I need to go back and refocus on the basics for watercolors. I think I'm getting a little bit lax with my technique. I'm definitely focusing on things. I think it's just I'm focusing on layering of colors and that kind of a technique, but less so on the actual brushwork. So I could use a refresher, maybe a few little worksheets for me to do. I actually do find that's really helpful, especially with watercolors, to be able to go in and just create a sheet of nice flat washes or graded washes or whatever I feel like I'm having troubles with. So if you want to get some exercises done with your watercolors and get a little bit more technique down, that's a great way to do it. That's what I did in class when I was first learning, is we filled pages of just washes, figuring that out and getting it right. So I might need to go back into that. But the good news is that that's actually incredibly therapeutic and very pleasant. I always love just going in and doing flat washes. It's one of my favorite things to do, honestly. But that made me realize that I was being a little bit out of my own thought process there, where I was going really dry and I wasn't thinking through what I was actually doing. So I tried to be a little bit more present with each step that I was doing, with the brush strokes that I was doing and everything that went into it, so that I wasn't creating these problems for myself that I'd have to fix later on. And her hair was something that I was trying to balance out as I was working on it. So this piece, I didn't do any color comps beforehand, and I generally prefer not to do it that way because I find that I make a lot more mistakes when I do it that way. And when I'm nice and planned, I'm able to make it exactly what I want. But I just went for it this time. I felt like I had a pretty strong color palette in my head, and I think that it actually ended up turning out pretty okay for me, luckily. But her hair, I did need to be a little bit more conscious about the steps that I was taking and the colors that I was layering. I know that that was one of the areas that, and many times in the past, I've done something similar where I've tried to compensate and I end up making the color super muddy, and I've put too many contrasting colors on top of each other. So in the end, it's a little bit too messy. So I had to be really careful about how I was building up her hair and what the final result was going to be, because when I first started painting this, I didn't have a clear idea. I did go in with this pastel pink, but once I did that red sweater, I knew that I wanted it to be a little bit different. It needed to bring something more to the table than just a lighter version of her sweater. And in the end, I did end up adding more of a golden color on top, so it becomes more of a strawberry blonde type hair color. I also went in with one of my purples to add in some shadows to it, and I really liked the effect of that because it blended well in areas that still had pretty much the pink for the dominant color in that area, but it also worked great because it desaturated some of the areas with the yellow. It just created a lot of interest to the piece that just adds dimension to it. So I love having colors mixed in that, depending on which one it's on top of, it has a different effect, and they all come together and create a more interesting look to it. But in the end, after I had finished this and put all the glaze on her hair, it does end up more of a golden yellow red color than her sweater, which was good. It worked well because I had a few details that were a similar color in her sweater, so it was tied together. It was still warm, but it wasn't completely out there, and it wasn't too much the same. And I knew this piece was going to be one of the ones where it just needed the final details to really finish it off, to make it pop. And honestly, to fix some of the things that were getting a little too blended in. So with her sweater, I did need to end up going in with my white gel pen to add a rim light to actually both of her sleeves to differentiate one from the other. I did go in with a colored micron, so it wasn't as dark as black, which I much prefer. It it has a lot more of a harmonious look to it, and it's not so stark. So that was great, but it did start to blend in a bit, and it was a little bit hard to see the definition between it. So I just went in with that white gel pen and added that, and that really just helped separate the two sleeves, and it helped pop them out. And I want to give one quick final thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring this video and helping support this channel. I love being able to work with a company that I love their product. Like I mentioned, I'm currently building and fixing up my website. Actually, I'm pretty much completely redoing it, and it has been so intuitive, and I love the process of being able to turn what I had in my head into reality. I've really struggled with making my websites the way I want it to, but this has been just so much easier. So I've really enjoyed that process so far. So if you are looking to create a place to host your portfolio, to create an online store for yourself, this is a great place to start. Again, I do have a code for you to use. It is Danica, and I have a link in the description, and that's 10% off your first purchase. So you can go ahead and go try it out. If you're in need of a website for any of your creative endeavors, that is a great place to start. So check out Squarespace. And that is it for today. As always, I do have the original painting as well as prints of her available at my art shop. There is a link down in the description that'll take you over there. And I will be posting another video on Saturday, so I'll see you guys then. So thank you so much for watching. See you next time.